Glad to have you on the other side of ABS this morning on Good Morning Anambra. Well, you still have me in the studio, Ajuluchuku Okabwe, and I'm still here with my co-anchor, Chidima Oranwa.
All right, glad to still have you on the show, our Breakfast TV show this morning. And like we promised, we are here because this is the discussion segment of the program. And of course, the topic we are exploring this morning is conflicts in Nigeria, preventing sexual violence. Well, we are doing this because we are joining the world to commemorate the 2024 International Day Against Sexual Violence in Conflict. Quickly, conflict-related sexual violence is a devastating form of attack and repression which has a lasting harmful effect on survivors' physical, sexual, reproductive, and mental health, and destroys the social fabric of many communities. Well, despite the widespread awareness and condemnation, the crime continues around the world. And that's why we're here to talk about what is happening in Nigeria, because we are Nigerians. And we have our guests seated with us this morning. Ajulu.
Yeah, with us is Ngozi Nwoji Eke, State Coordinator, Adolescent Health Development and Gender Equity. Good morning, Ngozi.
Good morning, and welcome to the program.
You're really looking very, very interesting this morning. Pretty. And also we have Vince Onyekwelu, who is a security expert, good governance consult, journalist and community leader from Enugu Agidi.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Looking gallant.
Okay,
always.
Because I wanted to say, if you don't say that, there will be a problem here. Okay?
Glad to have you here in the studio with us. Conflict in Nigeria, preventing sexual violence. And mostly when we talk about conflict and then sexual violence is involved, obviously we all know what we're talking about. The girl child being taken advantage of. And most times in conflict areas or where there are conflicts, most times when the international communities are there to look out for people, they will tell you that the women and children are first priorities. That's to make you understand that without the women and without the children, the future definitely won't be there. But that's not disregarding the fact that men or boys are not important, but they feel that men can take care of themselves, and most times men are the ones that perpetuate this gender violence and in conflict area. Let me come to you, Vince. You're a security expert, a journalist, good governance consult, and a leader from Enugu Agidi. Coming to talk about conflict, which is, as man, as human beings, definitely as social animals, there will be ideology, differences and stuff like that that will result sometimes to conflict. When such things do ensue, as a community leader, as an expert, where or what do you think should be the first point of call in order to safeguard the less, will I say, the vulnerable in the community?
Thank you so much. Obviously, talking from a frontline experience, also as a former British police officer, when we had issues in certain countries, you find out that the issue of sexual violence is a global challenge. It's not only about a Nigerian thing. And there are some people, based on social understanding, religious misunderstanding, sees the victims of conflict as rewards from trophies that they can take out of these conflicts. At times, bad losers lose a tribal conflict. They see children, women, young boys as trophies they can take away. So one, it's a global problem. And number two, most of the stakeholders involved are the warlords, or also families involved, and also the children involved also. So if we bring this closer to Nigeria, for example, lately we've had some issues about defiling of children in our communities. And most of the times, we actually blame the adults because it's illegal. Based on the Criminal Code Act, Section 219 says that if an adult sleeps with a child below 13 years, it's felony. And felony comes with a punishment if found guilty of 1 year minimum and 3 years maximum. Can be more. Whereas if an adult sleeps with a child above 13 years, it's misdemeanor, which comes with, if found guilty, 6 months imprisonment up to maximum of 1 year imprisonment. And legally, you can charge the adult with both misdemeanor and felony. But now, most times, we blame the adults. The families of these children have strong roles to play also. Because at times, I cannot comprehend what will make a girl child of 12 years, 11 years, 13 years, to have the impetus to go into an adult man's house, get the door locked, and no shouting, no cries for help, no struggle. So at times, the children, as much as they are children, their parents need to help them. And at times, parents cover up for the children. The person is arrested. Madam, please, it's the work of the devil. What kind of devil is this? That you, an adult of 37 years, will sleep with a child of 13 years, 11 years, 10 years, and you say it's devil. So the family has a strong role to play. Also, traditional leaders have strong role to play also. And then the men that abuse or defile these children have to be aware of the legal consequences of their actions. And then the aunties or madams that also defile young boys also have to be aware of the consequence. So adults have a role to play, families have a role to play, traditional rulers have a role to play. Then the children needs to know that you cannot be dating a person 30 years older than you and expect to do good to come out of it. So it's a very complex situation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Vince. Let's come back to you. We're talking about this elimination of sexual violence and conflict. Of course, we know Nigeria, we know what is happening in the northeastern part of the country and some regional clashes that we are also having. Now, I want you to, as a woman, because Ajula has made us understand that women and children are the most vulnerable when it comes to where we have conflict and all that. Now, what do you think are the main factors that are actually contributing to this violence? I mean, the conflict enough. People are being killed. A lot of things are happening. Hunger in the land, and yet people are being defiled.
Thank you very much. The issue of sexual violence in conflict cannot be overemphasized too, because it's something that's across the board. It's at every level, at every organization, in the families, in the churches or religious settings, political settings, organizations, in the society at large. So, and I know that it's not just that probably those children want to do this. We have the child perpetrators too, who know that these children are below or minors, below age or minors, yet they perpetrate such sexual violence on them. About 2 months ago, I got a call or a complaint about one that was perpetrated at Nsugbe community. A man of about 50-something years sexually abused or raped a child of 3 or 4 years age. And I don't know, it's too much, because now it's like an everyday thing. And for us to stop this, we need all hands on deck. Even the child's, one arm of the child was broken in the process of raping her. The Igwe of the community was consulted, and the youth leader of that same community went for the problem to see how to sort it out. And most times it's the same issue of, they'll start off, after a little while, they'll now start telling you, we are sorry, we don't want to continue with this case. I know that most of these issues come up due to poverty in the land, mainly due to poverty in the land. Because if these survivors or their families are well off, you know, they will be able to take the perpetrator to any level to get punishment or to get justice. But because most times you find out that these people are probably vulnerable people, either most times you see that Some are blind people or girls in the village or community who have issues. They can't fend for themselves. They are either blind, there are those hawking on the streets, there are young children who might not be able to talk. They don't have, they've not built their self-esteem, so they cannot talk, they don't know anything. So these people perpetrate these problems, perpetrate this on them because they cannot fight, they cannot speak. And most times you find out that the families, either at times, it's too much. At times you hear that a man, a father in the house, raped his own child, his own daughter. Incest upon incest are happening in this community, in our communities these days. And we need to stop them. And we need all hands on deck, because one person cannot do it. Only me, myself, or Ajuluchupu, or the co-producer, or my friend here, cannot do it. Most times you see cases of that the lawyer asked us to bring 20,000, but we can't afford it. And when it happens in a family that it's the man of the house who provides for the home, when the wife tries to speak up, he will shut her up. He will either go out and tell people that my wife, I suspect her, I've seen that she's trying to date some young men, so that by the time the wife comes out to report to community persons, they'll shut her up and say, your husband equally came to complain. Is this why you're saying this? And most times because the woman either doesn't have a job, doesn't make money. So because she doesn't make money, she will not be able to go for that case. The husband will shut her up and say, if you try to go to the police again, that's it for you, you'll leave my house. And most times, because these women are trying to hold their families together, they wouldn't want to leave their children. They wouldn't want to leave their homes. So they try to take it in. And so far as you keep taking it in, mind you, it will continue happening. So we need to come out and support this. We need to, all hands come on deck. Proper reportage is one of the reasons, or one of the reasons why it's not being eliminated. Because most times there'll be a case and you'll be hearing that so and so case happened in Enugu Agede. Meanwhile, it was in Nog. So the community members or the community leaders will be like, we didn't hear anything like this. So it didn't happen in our community. So most times they are giving the wrong information. And this will mar the progress of elimination of this sexual violence and conflict. Another way.
Okay, we still get to that. We still get to where we talk about how we can solve this problem and the people that should be involved. But then when we are talking about war-torn zones where we have conflicts and all that, some of these women, some of these girls are being raped by probably uniformed people. Let's not talk about the ones happening in the home. We're talking about where we have conflict, where we have war, these war-torn areas and all that. Who are they going to report to when the people that are supposed to help them out are the people perpetrating that evil event?
Thank you. Now, when there's a conflict, it becomes more difficult because in conflict situations, necessarily not to have to be about uniformed army or uniformed police. We can also talk about warlords, ununiformed, dangerously armed people. Bandits, kidnappers, communal clashes. It's all conflict zones. So it becomes a near war zone because then the police are not effectively working. The social organizations are not effectively engaged. So the man with the AK-47, so to say, becomes the governor, the active leader of the community. So that is why we don't always support the idea of conflict as a solution to communal clashes. Number two, we also have to be aware that, for example, in the northeast, or where bandits operate in Nigeria, there are loads of unprotected swaths of land where the police station have been burnt down, the military barracks have been evacuated. So the agencies, the security agencies work in attack and withdraw. They don't even want to stay permanently. Example, parts of Niger State and other parts of the Northeast. But it's very important that we mention that in any kind of conflict, whether you are a violent armed dealer or active participant in the crisis, whatever crime you commit against a girl child can be used against you at any point in time. There is no timeline. It may take 20 years, 30 years. The evidences, once they emerge, it's for the authorities to make sure that you're arrested, prosecuted, and then actions taken. However, we have leaders in Nigeria that don't have the guts, the effrontery to challenge wrongs. They allow sentiments to come in. Oh, Narapo Baziano, let's solve this thing internally in the family. Achoromuka Atoyenge guy in the public. We don't want people to laugh at us. No. We need to have people that when you do a life of crime, if you are arrested and successfully prosecuted, you must do a life of time. That way we deter and disrupt other people from engaging in the same thing. But we have leaders that don't have the guts to see from the beginning to the end of a matter. In conclusion, my friend mentioned about what happened in Enugu-Agede. Obviously, being somebody who is from Enugu-Agede, there's this case of a so-called Chukwudi Okoye, who was accused of defiling a girl of 10 years. And we watched the video when he had the guts to say that he is from Enugu-Agede. So obviously, His Royal Highness Igwe Mike Okekuche, the Obalariam III, and Igwe Enugu-Agede, asked me as his spokesperson to let the world know that Chukwudi Okoye is not and has never been an indigenous of Enugu-Agede. He is from Akweso village in Nogo, in Dunukofia Local Government Authority. So what has Akweso village in Nogo, in Dunukofia Local Government area, has to do with Enugu-Agede? So I think when that came up, I wrote a public refutal notice, which I posted to Commissioner Ifi Obinabo, the Commissioner for Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare, for them to know that Chukwudi Okoye is not from Enugu-Agede, but from Nogo. And secondly, this crime was perpetrated in Amanuke, in Okanov. So how come, what is the connection for him to bring Enugu-Agede? So it shows the secretaries that this person may be a stronger criminal than we thought. We also, doing our intelligence, we had to even visit Nogo to confirm this news. I even heard that his name is actually Ifani, not even Chukwudi. I also got information that he's a twin, Omwelejima. And my also other concern is for this twin not to be the Chukwudi he mentioned, so that this now innocent Chukwudi can now go out in the public and probably be beaten up, be lynched for being the suspect, whereas he's not. So I think Commissioner Ifi has to look deeper to find out if Chukwudi Okoye is actually Chukwudi Okoye, 34 years, if he's actually 34 years, and to confirm that he's from Nogo and has nothing to do with Enugu-Agede and where he was committed in Amanuke. Thank you.
Well, still talking about the issue. Now, furthermore on what you just talked about now, there is every need for people not to actually follow information, news on the internet, hook, line, and sinker, which is a discussion for another day, because now a lot of people have already been fed with the wrong information, if not that you diligently went to do more updates and security check to discover and find out that this person is not. Now, how in trying to reduce this issue of conflict and sexual violence in Nigeria, part of it is sensitizing the youth on the need to follow updates on internet and then be current on happenings and stuff like that. Secondly, what do you do about profiling offenders? Because when you begin to profile offenders, it will serve as a deterrent, you understand, to others so that they don't go back into this. As a community leader, if names of people that have done this are being, maybe with the ministry and then they publicize it and make it known, people will definitely begin to shun away from this. And that will deter things like what Ngozi said about breadwinners perpetrating crimes like that. If you get to know about this, a whole lot sanity, a lot of sanity will be brought to most of these communities. What's your take on that?
As a former British police officer, we had a very simple system that we used to curb this. There is a page for sexual offenders. There is a profile for them. So when you are arrested and successfully prosecuted, your information is placed there. Your picture is placed there. Your details is placed there. And it will not be removed until after the period that's supposed to be removed. So anybody can go there and type Nigerian or Anambra State social welfare website, sexual offenders page. You click on it, you see their faces. It's a strong message to anybody who is thinking of doing such in the future, that your picture and your information will be here for maybe for 5 years or for 10 years or for 15 years. It's a strong deterrent. But in a society, we don't do that. Look at what happened in London some weeks ago. There was a riot. Everybody who was involved is being arrested. Over 10,000 arrested in a period of 3 weeks. Many of them successfully prosecuted. But in our society, the people in charge are not taking charge of their responsibility. So what stops us from having a page for sexual offenders on the Ministry of Women Affairs? What's stops from having a page for kidnappers in the same web page?
Both victims and perpetrators.
We can excuse the victims because the dangers of victims that you're talking about an underage child here involved who cannot make informed decision on his or herself. So it's not wise to place them. It's also not wise to place somebody who is being prosecuted. But when they are successfully prosecuted, they can now place their information there. So because somebody can be accused and later the court may set the person free. So you will not do that first. So this is how we serve in the British Police Service. We have this kind of fundamentals. So we can deter, disrupt, and make people understand that there is penalties for such crimes. There's no but. There's no if. There's no if it's the work of the devil or work of Satan. You have done it. You've been accused, prosecuted successfully. Go and do your time. Your page gets there. Your phone name gets dented. People will think twice or thrice before they do such in the future.
All right, thank you so much. Because let's go back to, when we talk about victims, survivors of this kind of barbaric art, we look at these people as, the arts have been, it's there already. And then another thing is healing for them, psychologically, physically, mentally, and otherwise. Now, these survivors, how do we help them? Or what support do we need to give to them? Some of these girls, some are already adult women that are victims of this sexual violence. How do we help them heal and get back to life? Because you see some of them that for life they'll keep on talking about it, and it will make them to withdraw from the society, and they will take some certain decisions in their life that they don't want to have anything to do with men again, and so many other kind of harsh decisions. So as someone that is you're working for an NGO, how do you help these people?
For the State Ministry
of Health. State Ministry of Health, sorry. How do we help these people heal?
Thank you. There are different ways that we can help these people heal. One of such ways is having people along we call it a referral pathway. Having people along the referral pathway who will come in to kind of join, support, and fight the cases of these survivors. Because most times we will have some people along the referral pathway, but because they are not being paid for their services, because for you to get judgment for these people, you don't have to wait for them to bring their money, because they don't even have it. So, and that is what makes them to shy away from going to fight for their justice. So for them to get justice, we need to have people along the referral pathway have a kind of support or funding that will enable them fight for these people. Because without it, most times you get to a lawyer, FIDA helps us a lot in this situation, but they can't do it with their own funding. Most times you get to a lawyer after having laid down the complaints and the case has started. Then along the line, the person will go to the police will request money for filing and stuff. And at times they need some of this money, though most times we overcharge. But they need this money because you know what it costs to print now. So they need to get their documents ready before they file. And all these are part of the reasons why we are not having them conform to what they have agreed to support us in. Then, equally, we have the vigilantes. And when the police wants to make an arrest, you have to fund them for fuel. You have to fund them. So all these things scare these people away. Then stigma also is one of the major reasons why people shy away from getting justice. And you know that when a case happens and they'll say it's from Nog, people from Nog will listen to know from which family. So most times when we have cases like this, one, those survivors, you don't take pictures to show their faces. If you have to take their pictures, you take it from behind so that you don't expose them. And even, or you blur their faces. Even at court, during sittings, you can still decide that they will not come out in the open during judgment or something like that during the case. So that's some of the things we'll look into, because if you start stigmatizing against them, they will not go for justice. And when they don't go for justice, that child or survivor keeps having it in her that this thing happened, how do I come out in the open? And there's also very important thing, the psychosocial aspect of the referral pathway is very, very important, because there's need to talk to them one-on-one, know what happened, sensitize them on being strong, telling them that you will support, that they need to say the truth, you will support, that the government is with them, because every case of rape is state's case. Every case of rape is for the state. The government owns the case. So that there's the community leaders or the Igwes want to shut it up or close it down, there's nothing like that, because it's a state case. Then we also need to bring down all these societal norms. We need to change them. There's need to change a lot of societal norms, because all these societal norms are the reasons why people don't come out to say that this happened to them or this happened to a member of their family and stuff. Somebody, probably something that happened in her earlier years as a young adolescent, might get to the time she will get married, and probably a son of the land will come back from one country outside the country and wish to marry her. Then some people will say, is it not that man's daughter that she was raped by her father, or that somebody raped her some time ago? Be careful, know where you're going, I will support you, you know, and that puts the person off at times. But if it's someone who has seen the girl, if the girl has been psychologically, has had a good psychosocial talk and justice gotten for her, she will be strong. And that will help her to move on. Because if she is not strong, she will lose faith in life. And such can equally bring about suicidal thoughts. Yes. They can take their lives, some can go into drug abuse, and a lot of ills.
Thank you so much. At this juncture, we'll definitely be calling for a break now, and then when we come back, I think I will still have one or two questions to ask both Vince and Ngozi on how to begin to curb this thing. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
First of all, sexual violence is bad. Anyone that indulges in such act is devilish. And when such act is carried out against a child, psychologically the child has been destroyed, sort of. It will have a very dangerous psychological impact on the child growing up. Secondly, that child may have medical issues, because when you violate a child, it is a person that is still tender in age. By that violation, you have already caused medical condition to the child, which may last in the person's lifetime. Thirdly, the child may grow up with hatred against men, anything a man, and he will be afraid of men, because such a child may grow up not wanting to have anything with anything called a man. Because of that experience, the thing will stick at the back of her mind. And the worst still, such a person may grow up and begin to live wayward life, because the person has been violated at a tender age. There is nothing again to what is there, and such a thing is too bad. So I think it is bad, and whosoever that is indulging in such a thing should desist from it. And if such a one is caught, the law should take its course.
It makes the children to lose value. They feel not accepted in the society. They feel rejected.
Wrong orientation, you know. Many a times when certain things happen to persons, because I know some persons who are being abused sexually, it gives them a wrong orientation about the whole thing. So it affects the orientation of the young people, and it affects the society generally.
Broken homes, because with time, if our children are not controlled, a time will come when partners will not satisfy themselves.
Across board, sexual violence is condemned. It's not a welcome idea for any person or for any community. If you see something, you definitely have to say something. Before we went on break, we were talking about, now we're talking about the dangers of it. We now want to talk about bringing solution to this. How do we begin to create awareness so that the children we are raising today won't be falling into such sexual violence, and then the boys too that perpetrate this thing as adults? How do we narrow this thing down to bring a lasting, or maybe bring it to the barest minimum, that things like this don't happen in our society, defacing and defiling our communities? Vince, let me begin with you.
Thank you. First of all, many may not be very happy with what I'm going to say, but I'll dare say it. I think I am going to push some members of the National Assembly to move for a motion to establish a Ministry of Men Affairs and Social Welfare, because we have Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare. We have a gap of the absence of Ministry of Men Affairs and Social Welfare, because most times, as we have research has empirically stated, that men are higher in numbers that defile these underage girls. Maybe there's a gap. That kind of ministry would help to educate men and target education awareness for young boys as they are growing up, that this is a no-go area.
So what is the role of parents in addressing that issue?
Number two, the role of parents. Somebody said something when they were speaking. You see, marriage where a man and a woman is involved goes a long way to manage such. However, it's not always so. We have seen homes where there's a father and a mother, and their children still get defiled, or even their boys get to rape somebody. So it's not a winning formula. The formula there is for the children to have that fundamental foundation about what is wrong in society, despite who you keep as a friend. Because peer pressure makes many young boys and many young girls to smoke weed, to do all sorts of sexual violence against each other. So that foundation from parents has to play a role. Number three, the school system. Many of these young girls and these young boys get spoiled and damaged from the school, from the home. Drivers from rich families, they employ drivers, cooks, and they teach these young girls certain nasty things right at the childhood. They take this idea to the schools, and they now corrupt other girls in their peer group in schools. Back in the days, we used to have guardian counselors in schools.
We still have them.
How effective are they nowadays? Because they are supposed to help these young girls to overcome this peer pressure. And then when you are a victim, they are left alone. The trauma persists, the stigma persists, and then a life of drug abuse to cover up this trauma and stigma may happen. So you see that the family has a role to play, the school system has a role to play, the functionality in the school system, the guidance counselors, mother and father has a role to play. And very important, I will say this again, the government are not playing enough role in this. Look at the issue of prosecution. You allow the victim parents to go and look for money to go and prosecute somebody who defiled their daughter. Where would they see that kind of money? It's supposed to be funded by the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare.
And then Men Affairs.
And Men Affairs also. And in conclusion, they're supposed to be what we do in the service, halfway home. When this thing happens to these young children, take them away from their homes. Put them in a center that is well managed. So they can be able to recuperate from that trauma. They may spend 1 month in this halfway home, 2 months. They will go home and spend like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They will come back to this halfway home. You see how they are developing, how they're getting back to society. You don't just bring them from police custody.
Sorry, let me interject you a little bit. The halfway home, is it where you rub minds with victims as the person?
Yes. Halfway home is where you talk to survivors.
Okay.
Safe place.
People that experience what you experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
And before they go home, you allow them to go home and test them for like 2-3 weeks, 1 month. You bring them back.
Integration and everything.
It's a gradual integration, but in Nigeria, it's like that. Drop them into the fire pan, go back home immediately and survive them, whether you like it or not. And then they don't have a way home. So that means government are not doing enough to fund. There should be young lawyers who can do pro bono. Come and do this as a voluntary work to get experience in the law world. Win cases. So you can say, okay, I've won 2-3 cases when I was working pro bono for the Ministry of Women Affairs or Ministry of Men Affairs. So I think, and then have this halfway home to help the girls or the boys to learn how to survive this trauma, learn how to report. And finally, there should be a child line whereby you call this line, say, so-so person has abused me. The department should go and look for the child. Talk to the child. Who did this to you? Should be a 199 or a 77 number or a toll-free number they can call to say, somebody has abused me. How difficult? So basically the government also, as we blame traditional rulers, the families, the children, government also should also be blamed for not doing enough.
As we are all seeking for solution now, we are, talking about the duties or roles of some stakeholders. What about the church? We are very religious people, and most times some of the things that we are being taught in the church, we hold it so dear to our hearts and sacred to our hearts. So, but sometimes when you even see, I don't even want to call it meaning, but when you even hear that some pastors, some clergymen are perpetrators of such evil, you begin to wonder, what then are they going to tell the people in the society? Like mounting the pulpit, and then you are there to talk to the people. What are you expected to do? Now, because of the nature, our nature as people that we love God so much, Christians, we go to church, Muslims, we go to the mosques, and we read our Quran, we read our Bible, and whenever you call upon us, we know 1 or 2 verses to quote. What then should be the role of these religious leaders in curbing this menace?
Thank you. The role of these religious leaders can be in the form of welcoming people who are in line with sexual violence and gender-based violence to come in during special occasions or during church services to sensitize the populace, the church populace, on the ills of sexual violence in the society, prevention mechanisms, reportage, where to get help, and stuff like that. Because it's not just, most times they say, go to, okay, now my colleague here mentioned having a Ministry of Men Affairs. We also have Women Affairs. It doesn't just end there, because it's still in Ministry of Health. Because most times, all these cases of HIV and stuff emanate due to all these rapes, STIs, HIVs. They emanate due to all this. Because once there's a rape case, there's a minimum number of hours or days you need to get the survivor, take her to a lab, get her tested to confirm penetration. Then give her preventive measures to prevent her from unwanted pregnancy or HIV, AIDS and stuff. Because if you miss that timing, the person might get infected. And once you are either infected or you are affected. If you have someone who is infected, you are affected because you will be on edge. You don't know what next you can do that it will infect you. And that is why most times you hear of a father chasing or throwing his son away from home, banning him from entering the home because he's HIV negative. So all these things, it doesn't just end there. It's in line with the health services too, because there's need to protect these people that's been raped or violated. And by protecting them, you protect them from getting HIV, AIDS, and STIs. Because we need to get this stopped before people are infected. We need to stop new cases of HIV, AIDS, and also those who are already living with HIV, AIDS, we try to align them to care so that when they start receiving their drugs, taking their drugs, it will reduce their CD4 count. And that means their level of HIV is reduced. They can't infect. So it's very important that people in the religious settings allow us. Most times when you come, because the church needs money, they are doing one program or fundraising or the other. There's one I virtually cried. I went to Mpo's side and I waited and waited with some other health workers there. We waited and waited and waited. At a point, they even asked us to do donations. I equally donated so far as I'll be able to give my message. Because what's important to me is for the people to get my message and for this to be eliminated. So I had to even donate. After everything, I was just introducing myself, about to make a sentence, and the pastor said, Madam, please, round up, please come. We don't have time again. I didn't even get 5 minutes. But
even
some people, yes, even after my donation, yes.
I'll collect my money back.
You'll be surprised. Some priests or reverends appreciate these things.
Yes.
But because some of us are overusing them or overdoing it, most times people will come, they are selling all these local herbs or drugs. They'll say they are from health. They are from health. So when people come now and say we are from Ministry of Health or from health, they'll now say, no, we don't have time. At a time, the organizer of CWO has to give permission, which is central before you can go to any church to sensitize. They don't allow it. If you go to any church without going to the organizer at the diocesan level, they will not allow you to sensitize the people. But some churches are equally different. They allow us. Last week I was at Holy Trinity Anglican Church in Nibu, Oka South here, and they gave me quite enough time. I spoke to them and they equally appreciated some of the things that constitute all this sexual violence or gender-based violence. They don't even know or understand it. For someone to make a change, for there to be a change in behavior, there must be proper understanding of the issue at hand.
Okay.
So that the person will be able to make a behavioral change.
All right. I want to say a very big thank you. Just quickly, please.
Yeah, quickly. You see, at times we as Christians focus more on Christianity and the ills and the mistakes we do in Christianity. As a former police officer, if you're a Christian, you're asked to go and learn the Torah and the Quran. So when you are walking, nobody can blindfold you because the person is so religion or that religion. What am I trying to say? In Christianity, we are actually even more open to talk about sexual violence against underage. Yes. In some other religion, it's even a taboo to say that a clergy or a preacher in that religion did such thing against a child. It's so covered up. But in Christianity, people are even open enough to say, pastor, priest, this is wrong, and we are going to expose you. But in some other religions, which I don't want to mention names because in Nigeria we are scared to mention names, so I will not mention names. But in some other religions, it's a taboo for even you to open up and say that a child was molested by a clergy or by a preacher in those religions. And it's even more frequent in that religion because in other religions, you see that even to defile the girl child is even acceptable. Example, Iraq just made a new law. Iraq, not Iran. Iraq just made a law that you can marry a child of 13 years now. It just happened 2 weeks ago. So if this happens in this kind of communities, in Pakistan, you can also marry a child of 13 years. Even in Pakistan, you can kidnap a Christian child or a Hindu child and forcefully convert her to any other religion and forcefully marry her and obtain marriage certificate from the authorities. It's allowed. If the father speaks, the father is killed for so claims against attack on another religion. So as much as we as Christians are very comfortable to talk about Christianity and the ills, which is right, some other religions are even so much behind the openness we tolerate in Christianity to say that this is wrong. And the message here is to know that a wrong is a wrong. You cannot defile a girl child or even a boy child because you are a teacher or a preacher in your religion. It is wrong. Right. A child is a child and not an adult legally because they believe that the legal laws are below and under their own religious laws. So it's a discussion for the future, not even probably for now.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ngozi Moji, Eke State Coordinator, Adolescent Health Development and Gender Equity. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
I'm glad to be here.
And also, thank you, Vince Onyekwalo, Security Expert, Good Governance Consult, Journalist and Community Leader from Enugu-Agidi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it on the show this morning. Thank you so much for being part of it. My name is Chidima Oranwa.
And I'm Ajuluchuku Okabwe, saying tomorrow, God willing, we'll do it again.